Hey, welcome to Ones and Zeros. My name's Ben, and today we are doing our second dev blog. So there has been a few sort of changes and things that have been happening in the background that I wanted to kind of give some updates about, as well as giving some more updates on some of the videos that are going to be coming up, that sort of thing as well, and other bits and pieces like that. So let's kind of get stuck into it. So to start off with, one of the changes that has happened, if I jump over to this particular one and we take a look at my GitHub, the repositories for the Quartz Arc code bases have changed. I have set up 3 new repositories for the code bases. The previous ones have been removed partly because there is going to be some different development boards and stuff that we're going to be adding, which meant that the naming of the repositories and stuff wasn't quite where I wanted it to be. So this kind of helps make it a bit more sense. You can see what development board a particular code base is actually set up for straight away. There has also been some changes to the licensing of the code. So all of the code that I'm putting up is still free for personal use. So feel free to play with it and experiment it, use it in your own projects and things like that. However, it is no longer free for commercial use. So if you do want to look at using any of the stuff from those code bases, as far as the code that I've developed, then feel free to reach out via email to our onesandzeros.contact@gmail.com, and we can potentially look at discussing licensing options if you do want to do that. Part of the reason for that change is because, although I can't say too much, someone did reach out, and if that person does watch this video, thank you so much for that, because you kind of made my day with that. But as a result, that's kind of the way things will be moving forward. Now, as I've mentioned previously, some of the lower level stuff that we've been working on will be freely available to everyone, again, for personal use. However, some of the more advanced stuff that we will start to get into in the next month or two, as far as user interfaces and things like that, that are more in-depth, more operating system oriented, that I've been discussing in a bunch of the previous videos, that stuff's only going to be available to patrons who jump onto Patreon and decide to help the channel out that way. Partly because at the end of the day, everyone's got to pay their bills. So that's, I'd love to be able to give all the code away for free, but it's just not realistic at the end of the day. So but there'll still be plenty more free code coming as well, so don't worry about that, and there's a lot of really cool videos planned. We do have some really cool new toys that we're going to be playing with coming up in following videos. So if I jump over to these guys, so I mentioned these in the last dev blog. So these are some STM32F429 discovery boards. These ones I quite like because at the moment, even given the shortage, these guys are still fairly easily available. Be careful where you look at purchasing them from though, because I've seen them for nearly $110 plus like $30 shipping on eBay, which is just crazy. I managed to pick these 2 up from my typical supplier for about 110 Australian dollars with free shipping. So, and they've still got a fair few in stock. I'm not going to mention names of suppliers simply because if they want me to do that, I'd prefer if they were sponsoring me and potentially sending me some free stuff, because, at the end of the day, I like making money. We also have some other cool toys which have shown up. So I do have some CAN transceivers which I've just had arrive today. So when we go to start looking at doing CAN bus stuff in some of the STM32 basics videos, we're actually going to be looking at hooking up to 4 boards together so that we can look at some of the CAN address and filtering and things like that in more in depth of a way than we could if we were just using two boards together. The other thing that has recently arrived is some cool little, see if they show up on the video there, sorry about the glare, but some cool little Metal Gear servo motors. So I've got a bunch of those which have just shown up. So we'll be basically doing an add-on to the PWM code that we looked at in the previous STM32 basics video, and we'll be looking at how we can sort of do some cool stuff with servos, as far as sort of even being able to limit movement and set dead zones, do all that sort of stuff that you might do if you were using a typical sort of drone or a remote control aircraft or car or whatever, things like that. So be really good sort of stuff to use for robotics and things like that as well. Also, as far as the STM32 basic stuff, we do have some I2C spy videos coming up as well. I do also at some point want to be looking at I2S and SAI or SAI, so that we can actually sort of see how various audio interfaces can be used, because that's something that I find quite fascinating as well. As far as the Discovering STM32 series of videos, I have just put one up only about half an hour ago. That one should be available on YouTube fairly shortly. Just going over a couple of the issues that we had with font rendering and things like that during the previous video. But moving forward from that, we're going to start to look at being able to utilize the touchscreen, get the quad spy peripheral set up so that we can use the 64 megabyte onboard flash chip, as well as getting into making use of the SDMMC peripheral so that we can start to read data from SD cards, things like that. And then, of course, on top of both of those, being able to utilize the FATFS middleware so that we can actually read and write FAT files from the FAT file system. So allows us to more easily get files moved to and from computers and things like that. And all of this, of course, was mentioned in the previous dev blog as well, but just kind of wanted to give you updates on that too. Some of the other stuff that I want to look at starting soon as well will be a series of videos on particular approaches to debugging. Different tools that can be used for debugging. Some of those will be, using some of the debugging tools that you can leverage using ST-Link. However, there's also certain approaches that you can take if you don't have, say, if you have a blue pill and you're just updating software over serial and you don't have an ST-Link available for that, then there's particular approaches that can be taken there as well. So we'll look at some of the different ways that you can help to track down where bugs are, what's going on with them, all that sort of stuff as well. We will also be looking in the next week or two to start getting the first of our FPGA videos started. Because I've been busy getting some updates done to the current code bases, that's had to be pushed back a little bit, unfortunately. The other changes to the current code bases is that there has been quite a lot of commenting that has been added to both the F411 Nucleo 64 code base as well as the F769i Discovery code base. So you'll notice going through a bunch of the files now, nearly all of the files except I think 3 for the Discovery code base, but all of the files for the F411 code base, I've gone through and put extensive comments through so that if you're having a bit of trouble trying to understand what a specific thing's doing based on the way I was doing things previously, you'll have a bit better idea of sort of what things are, how they be used, things like that. So even as far as, what details we're looking for initialization structures, what data we're storing inside driver classes, as far as some of the functions and things like that. Where's an example of that? So some of the details of the data that certain functions are expecting, what return values you can expect from them, what they're used for, all of that sort of thing. So makes it a lot more usable, especially for people that are just sort of starting to get into that sort of thing. If there's anything that you would like to request us to take a bit more of an in-depth look at, or questions, things like that, definitely feel free to let us know about that. So you can leave us a comment on YouTube. You can jump onto our subreddit, so r/ones and zeros, and leave a comment there. More than happy to answer questions there. As well as the contact email down there, onesandzeros.contact@gmail.com. And again, as mentioned, if you are interested in potentially licensing some of the code for commercial use, that'd be the way to contact us as well. If you do want to help the channel moving forward, there's definitely a lot more stuff that I've got planned, but just sort of give you the short-term overview for the moment. But if you do want to help us moving forward as far as making the streaming setup better, allowing us to provide better content and more varied things, then I would love it if you jumped onto Patreon and considered becoming a patron there. In the top tier patrons do get access to a lot of the more advanced code that will be coming up in the coming months as well, rather than just the low level code, which is being made more freely available. There's also a bunch of benefits for the 3 different Patreon tiers that have been set up as well. So including a bit more access to me, a bit more access to some of the behind the scenes stuff. So if you are making use of the code base and stuff like that, and you want a bit more of a hand with that, things like that, patrons have a little bit more access to all of that sort of stuff. But all of that stuff is available on the Patreon website. So of course the link for that one's just down there as well. If you liking the videos, definitely love us if you gave a like and a subscribe on YouTube. Thank you again to all of the new subscribers. Love it if you followed us on Twitch. And yeah, thanks so much for watching. I hope you're having a great day, night, evening, morning, whatever it is, wherever in the world you are. And hope to see you next time. Thanks so much for watching.